Greetings, everyone. Your cartoonist pal Stan here with another episode of Random Encounters, the show where I use random encounter tables like the kind you find in tabletop role-playing games, such as Dungeons and Dragons, and I use those, as well as an electronic die roller, to randomly create situations that I don't know what they are. I pick a who, and I pick a what, and I put them together, and I draw a cartoon, all for your entertainment and mine. See, the point of this show is that drawing's fun. It's fun for me. I've always loved drawing, and kids love you. You remember when you were a kid? Remember how much you just loved drawing just for the fun of it? That's what this is about. The fact of the matter is, it's also a bit of an insight into how my creativity works. If you'll pardon that, it's how the ideation, how you come up with ideas. Is one probably the number one question I and most of the other creatives I know get asked. Where do your ideas come from? Well, this is an example of it. I don't know what I'm going to draw. The random encounter tables will give me a start, but somewhere the quote-unquote magic is going to happen. And you're going to be here for it. You get to participate. So, having said all that, let me grab here. I will be doing all of this on my iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil and the app Procreate. None of this is sponsored. I use these things because these are the things I use in my work, in my daily life, because I like them and I trust them. So I tell you. Now you know. All right, so I'm going to grab my pad here. I'm going to make sure everything's set up right. And then we will jump on over to this scene here, where you can see our random encounter tables for the evening, the who and the what. Interesting who, interesting what. Let's go see what the dice tell us. Come over here to an app, die rolling app, and we are going to do here. Man, excuse me. So rude of me. Once, twice, a third time, we've got 4 is our first who, and once or twice, a third time, a 1. 1 is our first what. So let's come back again and have a look. 4 is a Myconid, which, for those of you who don't know, is a mushroom creature, mushroom person. And 1 is the Heimlich maneuver. Myconid, Heimlich maneuver. I just learned that Heimlich maneuver is no longer the preferred term for using the abdominal thrusts. I don't remember. It was abdominal something. I still call it the Heimlich maneuver. So that's what we're going to draw. So I'm going to come on in here. I'm going to turn off the charts. I'm going to turn on the sketch layer. I'm going to make sure that I'm using my correct brush, and I'm going to start drawing with blue ink, because that's how I like to do my sketches, which is a throwback to the old days of drawing on physical media. Alright, so we got a Myconid and the Heimlich maneuver. Okay. So we're going to need a mushroom. I'm going to zoom in a bit here. We're going to need a mushroom person. Start with a cap. Rough shape for a Myconid. Now the question is, who's the Myconid giving the Heimlich maneuver to? I don't know the answer to that. If you're watching, if you're in the live chat right now, and you have an idea, let me know. So, it seems like from what I've sketched here, we've got it's a human. Doesn't have to be, but that's what it's starting at. I think I've got a gag that I'm not sure exactly how it'll play out, but I mean you can see the start of it there. I'm going to set that a little lower so I've got room. Moving it around. First, I enlarged the sketch so it fills the page. Now I'm moving it around so I have space up here to write some text when I'm all done. I think that this is enough sketch to get me going. I don't know. I'm thinking. Let's just draw it. What the heck? Alright, so we're going to go to the lines layer. I'm going to switch to black instead of blue, and then I'm going to use these as my my bases. Always start with lines that you are confident in. I'm very confident about this nose and the mouth like this. You start with lines that you're confident in because as you go along, you will inevitably draw something that doesn't go right and you'll have to change it. But you don't want to have to change a lot. And if anything you've built on the line you have to change, may have to change also, right? And it's like a Jenga tower. Right? If you pull out something, anything that's resting on it has to go. So if you want to have lines there that you're certain of, so that no matter what, even if you make a mistake, these lines will still stick around. All right, so I think I got a. I don't know why it's an older man, but it is. And speaking of Myconid, I mean, at first I was considering, I was drawing this old guy like he's just a normal guy at like a Olive Garden or something. All right, so here we go. Now I'm going to come in here. Weirdly enough, it's the hands that I need to get right because of the gag. The face of the Myconid and the positioning of all that can change a lot easier as long as I've got those hands right here around the waist of the person who's getting the Heimlich. Everything else can more easily be adjusted. So, here we go, here we go. Guess I wasn't getting that right. This arm has to come over. Both of his arms have to come over the hands that are being used to perform the maneuver. You see, there are little mistakes I'm making. I'm having to erase lines, but because they're built around things that are solid, I don't have to do anything more than change one or two lines when they are wrong. Alright, so there is our guy receiving the Heimlich. Oops. Here is our Myconid performing it. Now this gets a little stranger. So I have a very loose drawing for the cap, but in its finished format, got to be a little more careful. Because if it doesn't sit right, the whole thing's going to look wrong. I often will say it's not important when you're doing these drawings to get things perfectly right. What you have to do is avoid having them look wrong. Because your audience doesn't want to judge what you're doing. The people looking at your drawing are not looking to judge what you've done, but if they can't figure it out, if they're not can't easily and automatically figure out what you've done, then they're going to have to start thinking about it. And once they start thinking about it, things that don't work right, they are going to judge you on that. Here I'm creating, I often will talk about this, I use simple shapes to build the drawings that I'm making. Well, that's why that was so weird. I had my eraser set huge. Alright, so I'm going to come back here and put that line back in. And so if I put the sketch line down with the right shapes, I can then put a more confident line down when I'm drawing it. But if I don't, like here, those feet were very rough. And so when I put it in, when I'm actually doing the finished version here, I still had to figure out exactly what was going on. Start with a rough shape, and once you have that rough shape, you build on it. Okay. I can see part of the gag here already, or I mean, the basis of the gag is that what he's been choking on is a little junior Myconid. Right, and the joke, the text, the reason I've left space up top is our Myconid is going to be saying, Junior, I told you not to play around at the salad bar. Junior, of course, is having a great time. Here we go. There's a gag, there's some lines. Let's turn off the sketches and see how that looks. Alright, this is looking pretty good. I've got to add a little bit. Got to add a few extra lines here just to make sure it's clear what's happening. Of course, when I add the color, as I'm going to in a minute, it will help. But whenever possible, I certainly want the lines to tell the whole, as much of the story on their own as possible. All right. It cracks me up. So let's come here. We're going to switch to the colors layer. I am going to grab my gloaming brush. It's a brush I use to get this effect, which is kind of half crayon-y or marker-y, which lets me do quick coloring, kind of impressionistic coloring, where I don't necessarily fill in everything, but I follow the shapes within the shapes and give those a little extra emphasis, a little subtle visual emphasis. And that means that the finished piece, although not every inch of it is colored, and sometimes I don't even stay within the lines, but it feels right, and it feels it also gives the finished piece an added bit of texture and shape and three-dimensionality. I think we'll say that his pants are, or his shirt is white. That'll save us a little bit of coloring, but I'm going to put some highlights on it so it won't look pure white. Go. And our Myconid, our mushroom, I'm going to give him this yellowish color for his body, the stem of the mushroom. It's a good neutral color. It's not white. Very, very often mushrooms have white in their coloring. But we don't want to leave too much as plain white. Darker there for the nails and the tongue, the eyebrows. And then I think the cap. What color cap should we give the? Maybe reddish, magenta-ish color, like so. I'm going to color the whole thing and then go back and color over for where the spots are, just to make things easier on myself. I'm all about making things easier on myself, particularly when this is just for fun. Don't complicate things you don't need to. Alright, so that, and maybe a yellow or an orange. Let's go with a yellow. There we go. And then the inside of the cap is going to be darker brownish color. Like so. Now I'm feeling like those eyebrows are not dark enough. So I'm going to grab that color and I'm going to make a darker version of it so that they stand out as different from the cap. And of course, I guess our little fella there, also going to give him the same coloration. Like that. I find this amusing. And I always consider that a good sign when I make myself laugh. Okay, now it's looking good. We're just going to want to add in a little bit of extra shading. So talk about this a lot too, where I take the color that I'm working with and I just take a darker version of it and go along the bottoms and I pick a side where the shadows will be lying. Very often I choose the right side, just because when someone looks at a drawing, their eyes go from the left to the right. And so I just put a little extra weight over there on the left side. That's where I put the shadows, or these emphasis lines. They're not really shadows. Shadows, as I've said before, shadows work a very specific way, and these lines that I'm doing for emphasis do not obey shadow rules. But again, as I said earlier, if you don't make your viewer's mind wonder about it, they'll accept it. Say, yeah, it must be a shadow. Go. I'm going to grab this. Do the same thing for the Myconid. It's not quite dark enough. A little darker. There we go. You know, the one thing I guess I've not put enough real emphasis on is that the movement. I think I might have to add a little something in there to sell that. And that'll be going back and adding a line or two. But first I'm going to grab a grayish blue and use that to put highlights on the shirt, which now looks like a white shirt, right? It doesn't make it look like a gray shirt. That's just the shadow shading color on there. And then we'll grab a little bit of gray, darker gray, to put in our fella's hair. And I guess the only thing I don't have any shading on is the human. I don't want a lot of it, but some will do. Particularly down here on the hands, because they're just seeming like spots of pink color with no real reason. Alright. I'm liking this, but again, I'm going to now come back to my lines layer, and I'm going to switch back to my inking brush, my studio pen, and I'm going to add some movement lines here, and just a couple of those aren't working right. I want it to be clear that the maybe something. I want something to show explosion outward, or so the Myconid is doing the Heimlich maneuver here, and I can add some more. Just do you want that little movement lines? But I think really these two little explosive outward bursts on his mouth really sell that idea that it's getting spewed forth. And before then, it's not a huge difference, right? There we got a mushroom that's clearly flying out of his mouth. But if I put those on, the mushroom seems to be flying faster, and it adds a little more emphasis on what's happening to the little old man. Again, you're playing with the brain. When you're drawing something, you're playing with the brains of the people that are looking at it. You want to make that brain see what you want it to see, and think what you want it to think. So there we go. Stop right there and call that our Myconid doing the Heimlich maneuver. Although I'm going to now lower the opacity just a bit, maybe 5 or 10% on those colors. Oh, undo that. Right now, those colors are very strong. I think they're taking away from the lines a little. I'll say that more clearly. And so if I drop the opacity on them, make them a little see-through, maybe 10. They get too far and they just seem washed out, and that's no good. But back up around here, around the 85 to 90%. They're still nice and strong, and they're letting the lines shine through more than they do when it's up at 100%. So I'll go here around 90%. And there we have it. Voila! The Myconid performing the Heimlich maneuver. Well, I haven't had anyone in the chat room yet. I don't know if that's because people aren't chatting, which is fine. You don't have to chat on my account. Or that there's something going on with the comments not getting fed through to me. If you're commenting and I've not seen you or I've not replied to you, it's because I haven't seen what you've written. And I apologize for that. But Nothing I can do about it. I hope you're having fun. I am. In fact, I'm looking here and I'm seeing other things. I think I want to just fiddle with this a little more. This happens. If you've watched this show before, you know this happens a lot. I'm done. No, wait, I'm not done. I'm going to grab this color in there. Go for a bit of a darker version of that. And I realize that I want to put some extra shading here under the cap so it doesn't feel quite so flat. There we go. Now we're done. So, I will turn off. Well, you know what? First, I'm going to leave that there for a second while I have another sip. Hope you all are having a good evening, whether you're watching this, or I hope you all are having a fine time, whether you're watching this live now or on replay. I hope that maybe you're grabbing some writing or drawing implement, a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen or your own iPad or other electronic drawing device, and that you are doing some drawing too. I like to imagine that this is just a fun activity that we're doing together. Okay, so we're done here. That means it's time for me to. I'm feeling very dramatic today, obviously. I'm going to turn off the round one, turn on round two, and turn back on the encounter tables. Because it's time to move on and do our second drawing. Go back to the die roller and do it one more time. So what's our second who? Our second who is one. One is whatever is the who, and our second what is three. 1 and 3. So come back here, and that's a T-Rex dentist visit. Okay. All right. Now, this is a T-Rex. I kind of phrase, I like to phrase these so I have options, right? Heimlich maneuver one is the person giving or getting the Heimlich maneuver, or how are they involved? Dentist visit is a T-Rex getting their teeth worked on, or are they the dentist? Well, I don't think the T-Rex is the dentist. I mean, though, with those short little arms, that is kind of. And I could certainly let's just play around with some sketches, right? I could have the T-Rex with a dental implement and the person down there with their mouth open, and T-Rex is looking and saying, "Can you open wider? My arms won't reach." Like that. I would need to change this. This original body shape isn't working out really. I didn't account for size right, but again, I have time to change that before I go in. So there's one take on it. Hello, Linnea. Are you on your lunch break? We're looking here at a T-Rex dentist visit is our subject. So that's one way where T-Rex is a dentist. The other way we could do this, I'm going to make this smaller and put it up on the corner so I have room to do a second sketch here. We could certainly have the T-Rex being the one who's at the dentist. And the dentist, in this case, I think the dentist would be in the T-Rex's mouth. Like scrubbing things out between the teeth. I think these are both viable cartoons. I think that, in fact, I think they're both kind of funny. I'm leaning towards the first one, just because, I think mainly because the idea of the T-Rex being the dentist is the option that seems least intuitive. You have T-Rex dental visit. You think, all right, well, the T-Rex, big guy, big teeth, big mouth, he's got to be the one that's being worked on. But right, because that would make a fine drawing. But this one where the T-Rex is the dentist, it just kind of, I like them both. I kind of want to do them both. I can't, though. All right, but I tell you what I will do. I'm going to grab this here, and I'm going to cut and paste it so it's on a different layer. And now that I've got it on a separate layer, I can grab it and make it fill up the space here. So that's if I'm going to do the T-Rex is the patient. Or if I turn that layer off and come to the other one, I can grab that and make that bigger so it takes up the whole space. And that's the drawing, the sketch I could use if I'm going to do the T-Rex as the dentist. Not a lot of people in the chat today. Normally I would say, what do you guys think? What do you want to see? But Linnea, the only person who's spoken up. Everyone else out there watching quietly? Again, you know what? No, that's not pressuring you. Don't worry about it. I can make decisions on my own. I'm a grown cartoonist. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do the T-Rex as the dentist. So I just need to add a little more detail here. That level of detail was fine when it was small. I need a little more now that it's a little larger, but not a lot. Okay, there we go. That's enough. Now we can get to do some drawing. just you, yeah. Well, I mean, you're not the only. There are other people watching, but no one else has felt like they wanted to come and join the conversation. So, or I don't know. So now you have commented from Facebook and from YouTube. So that means I'm getting comments coming in. I didn't know. You know, sometimes when the no comments show up, that means that the technology is not sending me comments that are being typed. And not much I can do about that. But what happens if I do this? Nothing. Okay. Well, very well then. Yeah. So I can't tell where people are watching, but uh, now, thank you, Linnea. Now I know for sure that if they are watching on Facebook or YouTube, I should be seeing their messages if they present them. All right. Let's enough said about that. Let's come back to our lines layer. We are going to draw in our T-Rex dentist. I hope that you are having a good day at work. I know that this you pop in during your lunch time. That's not right. I need to make sure this. Again, you gotta, as I so often say, you need to make sure that what you're drawing just doesn't look wrong. It doesn't have to be 100% right. And what I had there was not looking like a dental instrument. Okay, now here's the thing. Want to have big, wide, open mouth. Like that. I need to make sure that all these little areas are sealed off, so when I do this, it only fills in the area I want. I'm not sure what I'm doing with this hairdo. Got the little bib on. And we've got the arms on the dental chair. Got to. Gonna have to move that arm. You'll often hear artists talking about unintended tangents. That's where two lines wind up touching where they don't really need to, and it always causes confusion for the viewer. I was having a little bit of unintended tangent there with the arm, the sleeve of her shirt, and the arm of the chair. go. Now that I know where the patient is, I can continue drawing the Dino Doctor. And we're going to put the dino foot there and the other dino foot here. Again, I don't have to draw a lot. I just can't leave it out. If I don't have anything there, people are going to say, "Where's the other foot?" And if I just have a little line that hints at it and put a little color in there, people will say, "Oh, of course. Well, that's clearly the other foot." Again, you're trying to control the mind of your viewers and make them see what you want them to see and not question what you don't want them to question. That changes the idea of drawing when you think about it as mind control. Yes, doing art is not about, you know, soft little, "Oh, I want to do something artistic." It's about controlling the mind of everyone who sees the work that you create. But it's true. Alright, so I think we've got what we need here. Let me turn off the sketch section so I can look at it. Yeah, this line has gotten a little shaky. That one, I guess both of my lines for the gown a little shaky. That's alright. There we go. We need that third toe there. Again, don't really need it, but it looked like there was an empty space there. And if it looks like an empty space, your viewer is going to see that and start asking questions. So just nip that in the bud. There we go. I think that's looking good. All right. I think. Oh, here's the thing, though. I still need a little extra room. Drop that lower. Is that enough? Drop it lower and move it over, and now there's probably enough. For the dinosaur to be saying, "Oh, dang." Can you open just a bit wider? Not liking how that's coming out. I guess I should have done this on the sketch layer. But now my sketch layer no longer syncs up with the drawing because I moved the drawing. That's alright. It's close enough. So it's going to be, "Oh, dang. Can you Open up just a bit wider. Mrs. Smith, my arms are too short. My arms are too short. Is that enough? My arms are too short. I still can't. That's a little too on the nose. Let's say I still can't reach. All right, let's come back to that top layer and put that text in. Can you open up just a bit? Wider, Mrs. Smith. Here's what I want to do. I want to center that Mrs. Smith. Dot, dot, dot. I still can't reach. Now, so again, when you're telling jokes, sometimes, well, in fact, very often, you don't want to be completely on the nose. Right? If I say, my arms are too short, it's very on the nose. Okay. So now we'll do some coloring, shall we? I'll pop in, and I'm going to once again switch over to my gloaming brush, and I'm going to put some scene on there. We're going to give a blue, because that bib is always blue. We will give her hair. Again, I'm going to work with the shapes. And this is a sweep forward. The same way with the lines, coloring in the same way. And then we'll give her a nice kind of fuchsia shirt. And maybe some blue gray pants. No, that's not enough. Something darker. There we go. And of course, we're going to need a little bit of some color for the tongue. And then, I guess I'll go with the chair. Let's finish off what's going on with our patient first. That color in there. Okay. Dino colors are standard to, are dino colors, well, I don't know. Dino colors, not really standard, particularly these days as we learn more and more about what dinosaurs really look like. But in many cartoons, you'd make a T-Rex some kind of, like a dragon. They will often just be presumed to be reddish. And there's no reason you have to stick to that. But again, you just need to be sure that if you are not going to do, if you're not going to go along with what everyone thinks, then you also have to, it has to happen in a way that doesn't draw people's attention. Me, I'm just as happy to make this a reddish T-Rex with a yellowish belly. Now we certainly know that scientifically this bit of old cartoony standard is not the way T-Rexes looked, but they also never were dentists, so I think we're pretty safe in saying that this whole thing is outside of the realm of how things really were. I was using that color there to try and add a little fold onto the smock, and it really wasn't working. It was, again, drawing attention to itself in a bad way. There we go. Got our T-Rex dentist with a nice little smock on. And I think we're ready to put some shading on this. I think we got all the details we really need. A little darker. I don't really need to shade all of the chair, but this part underneath definitely needs something to just set it back a little. And then for our dentist, just a little bit of shading here and there. A little bit. Like so. And also the yellow. I think that the yellow would need it, but it's just standing out a little too much. Weirdly, by putting this shading on it, it's stopping it from standing out. It just is a flat color when everything else had some amount of subtlety to it, made it stand out. By adding that extra detail, we actually make it fade into the background with everything. So here we go. Oh dang! Can you just open up just a bit wider, Mrs. Smith? I still can't reach. Oh, I guess Mrs. Smith needs a little shading. Not a lot, but just a little. As does Mrs. Smith's hair. Again, just a bit, not dark enough, a little darker than that. There we go. Just a bit to make it seem a little less flat. Oh, well, and of course, earring needs to have some color on it. There we go. I think that's looking pretty good. I'm going to come back here and switch brushes back and go back to my lines layer and stick a little stand on there, because what we have here is a T-Rex dental visit. Ba-doop. T-Rex dental. See, when I said that, you thought the T-Rex was going to be the patient, didn't you? Flipping your expectations. Hello, Raven Lore. Thank you for dropping in. Glad to see you. What am I going to say now? I'm going to have another sip of my soda. Okay. Well, we've got 2 drawings down now. Think it's about time to do one more, and then we can call it an evening. So I will come back here and turn off round 2, turn on round 3, get everything set, turn back on our encounter tables, wipe my mouth, brush the hair out of my face, one more sip, one more. Just so I can keep talking. Are we moving on to the last spin? We are, Ravenlore. We are moving on to the last spin. That's what we're doing right now. So we come in and we roll them bones. Once, twice, a third time. We already had a 1. That's not good. Once or twice, a third time. We got a 3 and a... It keeps coming at 1. We've used the 1s. And we don't have a lot of people in the chat today, so I'm loath. Stop it! 5. We've used both 1. We've used the Heimlich maneuver and the T-Rex already. We used a dental visit. 3 could be a fire giant. 5, fire giant bricklayer. Really? Fire giant bricklayer. Or we got Linnea may still be around, and Ravenlore's here. What do you think? Any other suggestions about what maybe we could do here on our third one? Fire giant. I don't know what I thought putting bricklayer on that. Those who's don't go particularly well. Only the T-Rex with his short arms would have made for a very funny bricklayer. But now we've already done that joke. All right, well, let's jump to our sketches. What would be funny about a fire giant laying bricks? Also, I said, as I start to think about sketching this, I didn't even really think about what a fire giant necessarily looks like. Except they almost certainly have their hair on their heads on fire. All right, that's a pretty good basic face for a fire giant. Okay, so we're gonna have a fire giant here. We can make it easy on ourselves by having the wall take up a bunch of the drawing space. So I've got a rough idea here where the fire giant could be reaching into uh, some kind of volcano to get bricks fresh out of the kiln. Something like that. Can we do a fire giant having a UFO encounter? I guess we could. I don't see why we couldn't. Because this joke not really going much of anywhere. I won't throw it away yet, but I will blank it out and have a second sketch. Fire giant UFO. A rough idea here. But the gag's not. So thinking that what is the UFO? What's the alien stopping to ask the fire giant about? Right. That's my basic thought here is, oh, we got a fire giant and the UFO. Uh, that could be it. I'm also thinking about just trying to think of fiery things that go with UFOs. Where's the crossover there with fiery things and UFOs? Like comets, maybe. A fire giant's gonna have a fiery beard too. Ay, 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 ay. I can't think of a good gag to go with this. Hmm. Hmm. I really have no idea what the gag, what the verbal part of this gag is. I kind of like this drawing of the fire giant talking to the UFO. Talking to the alien coming out of the UFO. But I'm not sure that's really getting a gag, as it were. Now I'm starting to think, what else can we do? Fire giant and crop circles, fire giant and um, hmm, hmm. All right, so let's see how this is working. Blow this up a little bit on the page, just a little bit. I guess I'm going to just draw this and think about it. Think about if something particularly funny comes to mind. Maybe we'll just have a funny little drawing of a fire giant and a alien in a UFO, and there's not a gag to go with it. That's okay too. I always aim high, and one of the things, you know, any kind of creativity, uh, you got to be ready for the fact that sometimes you just won't stick the landing. And a cute little funny drawing is sometimes it's enough. That having been said, I'm not ready to give up on it yet. I'm going to draw this fire giant and this UFO, and I'm going to keep talking to you as my brain tries to come up with a good gag, a good punchline, a good something to pull it all together in the end. And I'm going to have my fire giant, just nothing too very special about the outlook here, but outlook. But what I mean is the design, the costuming. Just now, I want to give him a big old fiery blade. Like that. One of the challenges with giants of any kind is that if you don't give them something to, if you don't put something in there to set your scale, how do you tell the difference between a giant and just a normal sized character? They're only giant unless they have something to be giant against. So in this case, the the UFO certainly could take that, or it does. The problem with that is that we don't know. Maybe it's just a small alien and not necessarily a giant. And I've certainly given this giant kind of dwarven um, proportions. What if what we do is uh, give we'll add something to this in the bottom part, like a something to establish that um, that size, to give us the context for the size. And maybe that could be, well, let me finish drawing what I've got here before we go too far off. I mean, right now we've got a fire giant and an alien. This could be, as I said before, this could be what we wind up with. Once just go and color this, and it's done. But I'm going to come back to the sketch layer and say, what if we were to put in cows? And thinking about the fact that giants are often seen stealing cows and UFOs are often mutilating cows, but certainly by putting in something like that, this now tells you that the giant is giant. Right? So we need some other context between these two to confirm that. I still don't have a joke, though. I've got a context now. I still don't have a joke. But come on, let's put in the cows. Like that. Over here. Got another one. Because giants often are shown stealing cattle. See, thinking about a fire giant stealing cattle, all I can think about is trying to make a barbecue joke. No, that's not good. Okay. I I don't know what the joke is. I'm really kind of plumb stuck for a joke here. But that's okay. As I said before, if all we have is this cute little drawing, turn off the sketch layer again. That's maybe I just put it up and I say, okay, can you come up with a joke for that? And that's what I put online, and we see what folks come up with. Yeah? No? Maybe? Well, I'm going to color this, and we will call it good-ish. So now Fire Giant for sure has reddish skin. And then use yellow for the fire and on all these things. Yellow is our basis for the fire color. Probably hop in there with some red to add highlights, but red and maybe orange. A brighter red than I used for the skin. I definitely went for an orangey red on that skin. When we say, very often we speak in very broad color types. We say red. There are lots of different kinds of reds. We talk about the whites and blues, but there's a lot of room to be playing with that kind of thing. So let's say very orangey red for the um, skin tone, but I'm going to come in here with a much brighter red as a highlight on the hair to give it that fiery look. I'm using the same basic rules here that I was talking about before for giving highlights on hair. In this case, though, it's not a darker version of the same color. It's a complementary color that sells the idea that we're trying to get out, which is that this guy is a fire giant. He's on fire. His hair is fire. Fire! Okay. And my same thing, finding the shapes within the shapes. I don't know why I'm picking green for his color, but it's got to be a color that doesn't get lost in the fiery reds and yellows. And it's not a bright, again, talk about bright and orangey reds. There are bright greens and there are dark greens. This is definitely a deeper, darker green. It doesn't look like um, a vernal, a spring green, or some kind of uh, planty green. I can see this is another one where I'm going to have to pull back the colors. The colors are really very strong compared to the line work. And then over here on our UFO, so there's a lot of very hot colors for our giant, so we're going to go with more cool colors for our UFO. Blues and blue grays. And then we're going to go with that kind of yellowish. And we're going to say that our alien is mostly pale and white, but we're going to use that off yellow as a shader to give the idea of what his skin tone is like. What do I need to do here? Well, I'll tell you one thing I need to do that I had in the sketch, but not here, is some little motion lines to show that the alien ship is hovering in the air. Yeah, I really don't know. Man, I wish I could come up with some kind of verbal gag, something for sure that's going on here. I just don't know what it is. For the life of me, I don't know what it is. So here again, rather than a blue or a gray, I'm going to use a brown as a highlighting color for these cows. I think that they still look mostly white, but kind of helps this feeling that they're cows. And down here, we'll use a lighter green for where the grass is. All right. Yeah. I don't know what's going on here, but it's something. So we'll add a little bit of shading, as we always do. A little darker than that, maybe. Kind of weird with the shading around a face where the hair is all fire. There really shouldn't be a lot of shading, but we still need it to help give definition to the face. There we go. So I will, like I did last time, drop this down maybe 10%. Yeah, that's better. And we've got ourselves a fire giant having an alien encounter. Um, we just don't know why. I'm still here. I'm still thinking about it. Oh, it's bugging me. I feel like there's something there. Feel like there's something there, and I just don't know what it is. It's on the, it's float. This is just beyond my reach. Um, but it is beyond my reach, and I am not going to. I'm going to serve myself as a an example of what I was saying earlier. Sometimes it's okay just to draw a thing and let it be itself. Not worry about it. We've got a fire giant having an alien encounter. Boop. At the tone, you will have a fire giant having an alien encounter. Okay, there we go. We are done for the day. We have had a fire giant having an inexplicable alien encounter. We have had a T-Rex dental visit. And we have had a Myconid and the Heimlich maneuver. Not bad for a Thursday evening. I think this first one is actually the best of the three. You know what? I don't want to say they get worse. It's not that they get worse. It's just this one I think is super successful, and the others are succeedingly not quite, not hitting on all cylinders. This one though, I like it. So there we go. That there is another episode of Random Encounters. Oh, you know what? Here's another thing. I know we don't have a lot of viewers here live, but I'm going to do this in case people are watching later on. I would like to, first of all, switch off here and tell you that I am currently in the midst of, well, it's not me personally. I'm involved in a Kickstarter that's going on right now. My good friend Owen K.C. Stevens is running a Kickstarter that involves cartoons I've done. If you like my cartoons here, you may want to consider going on over to dammitowen.com. That'll take you over to the Kickstarter. That instead of giving you the long Kickstarter thing, I got a URL specifically for pointing at it. dammitowen.com to get this book of Damn It Owen cartoons. Owen's a good friend of mine. He's always writing funny stuff online, and sometimes when it comes up, I just think I've got to draw a cartoon about that. And over the past 5+ years, I've drawn a lot of them, and we are collecting them here. The reason we are doing this right now, we've said for a while we thought this might be a good book. The reason we're doing it right now is that Owen has been going with through a battle with cancer, and we're looking for different projects that he's involved in that might generate some revenue for him. So we are doing this in our usual way. We're certainly splitting the money the way we would in any business venture, but specifically we're doing this book now because we need to. Owen needs to have projects out there. Having fighting cancer is a full-time job. It doesn't give you a lot of time for doing new projects and getting all your work that you need to get done. So we're trying to find projects that we have sitting around that we can get out the door and work that has been done in the past, or that he has done some work and we can get other people to be involved in it and be properly remunerated. Come to do, and that is what this book is about. It's going to be over 200 pages, I believe. We've got a bunch of stretch goals that we're going through now. The whole thing funded as it says on screen right now, in 90 seconds. Boom. It's happening. It's for sure happening. And if you want the details, you can head on over to the Kickstarter. Again, dammitowen.com, and you can get all the details there. So, there you go. That's what I wanted to share with you. Thank you for joining me today. If you want to see more cartoons by me, following me online at Instagram, instagram.com/Stanex. That's a great way to do it. If you want to become a part of my creative journey, be a member in the cool Stan Supporters Club, you maybe want to go over to my Patreon, patreon.com/Stanex. All those are Stanex, Stanex. On Wednesday nights, I have another show called 50 Years in the Dungeon, where I'm celebrating the 50th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons. There's a free newsletter that you can get for that, where you get all of the finished art I'm producing and information on what's coming up and behind the scenes on the shows. You can get that at 50yearsinthedungeon.substack.com. I think that's all I really have to say, so I'm going to thank you all for your time and your attention. Hope you will take some time in the coming week to just grab a pen and paper or pencil and back of an envelope or your own trusty electronic drawing implement and do some drawing just for the fun of it. And I'll be back doing the same thing next Thursday. Hope you'll join.